Hey guys, Savage Joy here with Real Progressives. Tonight we have a super special guest because she actually has been an RP teammate of ours for quite some time. And she's the only teammate we have who's running for office for any position. So that's exciting. Miss Diane Moxley is in New Jersey. She's running for Congress in CD7 as a Green. So thank you so much for joining us, Diane.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I just want to preface this with telling you guys, and I'm not just saying this because she's a teammate, but like, honestly, this woman is one of the most hardcore activists I've ever met. I was visiting NYC for the Left Forum, and I stayed with her, and man, she is nonstop. I was like, do you want to go out to dinner? No, I have to get more signatures. Like she is business. She goes to nonstop protest and films them all the time. I mean, she's the real deal. So I was telling her that we're going to be discussing her campaign, but also I want to talk about her activism because it is such a huge part of the person who is running the campaign. Diane has been to Standing Rock, she's been to Palestine, and she's been an activist for many years. So Diane, do you want to just kind of give us a history of your activism and a little bit about your trip to Palestine and Standing Rock?
Sure. And I'm in my 40s. I don't hide about my age. So if you look on my social media stuff, you can pretty easily find out my age. And I've been an activist my entire life. And I would say I got a little bit more stepped up with activism. I guess, there goes the sign. I knew that was gonna.
Oh, damn Russians! What the hell?
The Russians, they were screwing with our technology too, but we got through it. So here, we're gonna move that tape. Yeah, so I'd say like a few years before Occupy Wall Street, I started to get more involved with the immigrants' rights movement and the labor movement in New York City. Then Occupy Wall Street came along, and I got very involved with that because it was just a hop, skip, and a jump away from where I was working in Newark, New Jersey. So several days a week, hanging out at Zuccotti Park, learning so much with that, open public space, sharing the commons together, and did a lot of really cool things with Occupy Wall Street. We occupied the primaries in 2012 because Occupy Wall Street started in the fall of 2011. We helped organize occupiers from across the country to get to the No NATO protest in Chicago in May of 2012. And, there were little things along the way and road trips. That's where I started becoming a road trip activist. We protested a pipeline project up in Vermont and, just popping around. And then started to get involved with the Green Party in about 2013. And so got a little active with politics. But then I'd say it was, I guess, September of 2016. But I was aware of the struggles with the water protectors in Standing Rock from the summer of 2016 is when I first started hearing about it. But you probably remember that scene in early September with the dogs.
Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think seeing that footage, and my daughter saw the footage. Yeah, we were talking about it. That this is just crazy. And my daughter has been involved with activism with me. She's done some of the road trips. A family that protests together stays together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The two of us really wanted to go out there and, because there was a call to action. They asked for allies to come. So we met a nice woman from a rideshare board, Christine from the Boston, Massachusetts area. Hi, Christine. And we filled up the car with supplies, winter gear that we were going to leave behind, because one of our goals was also to bring a lot of supplies for water protectors that were going to, hopefully, ride it out the winter. And by the time we were able to get funding and save up some money, we landed up going the week before Thanksgiving. So filled up the car, went to Standing Rock. We were there for just over a week. And I've been at a lot of protests at that point, but Standing Rock definitely felt different, because I was used to, if you were at police brutality protests, law enforcement would be a little rougher with you. But when I would be at environmental protests, we always noticed that the law enforcement was a little more gentle and the public was a little bit more supportive. And so it was definitely a real eye-opening experience to see the police brutality left and right in front of you, and the complete disrespect for our, Native American brothers and sisters just being brutalized right in front of you. Just days before we were supposed to go back home, my daughter was, she joined a protest. We both joined a protest at the Bismarck Mall in North Dakota. And, there was going to be just strictly a prayer circle in the Bismarck Mall. It was Black Friday. And our main objective was to actually just educate the people about the Dakota Access Pipeline, about fracking, about where the pipeline was going. And a prayer circle barely formed, and allies, we were sort of on the outskirts. And I knew, myself and my daughter, we had already started some live streaming. My daughter was better at it at that time than I was. So we were going to, stay back and just try to record what was happening to, amplify the voices of the water protectors and get messaging out. But law enforcement, we saw them throughout the mall that day. As soon as we walked in, they were in little clusters of 3 and 4, and they were in riot gear, and some of them were already masked, which I had never been at a protest where they were indoors with masks on. So it was clearly just to hide their identities. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of nerve-wracking to even go towards where the action was going to be, knowing that it looked like they were ready to start some trouble, the law enforcement that day. And, we got towards the prayer circle, and law enforcement went from 0 to 60. They were telling people to leave and not even giving people a chance to leave. And they were, really rough, lifting up people in the air, throwing them to the ground, knees and backs, knees and necks. I did feel like it looked like they were targeting definitely people who were Native American, people of color, young people. I even said to my daughter, you look a little bit too much like a Standing Rock camper today, because that's what happens when you stay at the camp. It's a little rough to, really freshen up and look pretty.
Yeah.
Staying in a tent in the winter in North Dakota. So I kind of even lightly laughed when we were in a restroom before we were heading towards the action. You might look a little bit too much like a camper today. So just, be alert, be aware. Yeah. And all she was doing was streaming and backing up, listening to law enforcement. She was following orders. And I think it was because I think she was targeted because she looks very young. She probably did look like a camper, one of the, a water protector, and because she was streaming, but she was following orders. And from behind, a masked officer, and she's a tiny little thing, just threw her on the ground, and arms behind back, knee and neck, and just completely uncalled for. Everything I saw that day was completely, but it's hard when you're witnessing it being your daughter, and she was calling out for help, and I couldn't do anything, and I was being yelled at by law enforcement and threatened with arrest for doing nothing. And I realized one of us needed to not get locked up, to keep an eye on the other. And yeah, they took her 5 hours away to Fargo. I'd say we didn't get her back to back at Standing Rock probably for a good 24 hours. So that was, and as you've probably heard many stories, they treated her just like all of the stories you've heard, stripped her down to just her long johns and took her clothes and her coat. And they were in a bus for a 5-hour drive that she said didn't have heat, and they were freezing cold. The women were in one bus, and just like everything you've heard, it was really rough, really eye-opening. And we, like I said, we did a lot of actions together, and I don't think I've ever seen.
How old was she?
How old was she at the time? Let's see. She looks younger than she is. Let's see, was it 2 years ago? I guess she was 26, 27.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But she looks like a teenager.
Terrifying.
Like, she had no makeup
Yeah,
on.
yeah, she does.
16-year-old. And she's tiny. She's very tiny. So, yeah.
Wow. That is terrifying. I can't even fathom. So did you go to Fargo to pick her up, or did they bring her back?
Well, the beautiful thing is, with the Water Protectors Legal Collective and the community there, even though we did see the ugly side of, there's part of the community that is definitely racist and seems to have a really ugly hatred of the Standing Rock Sioux there. We could feel that tension, and they would blurt things out. Pretty ugly seeing that. I'd never seen that type of racism before on that level. I mean, I just wasn't aware of that. Where I live in New Jersey, I've just have not seen that overt, blatant yelling in the streets at people. We have that covert racism, but this was more overt. But there is a beautiful network of supporters in North Dakota. So they actually had a lovely family and there's a whole system of trying to track people, but hours goes by and you don't know where they're taking them, and you don't know where they are. And they're just keep certain people at certain locations making phone calls. I don't even know how they do what they do, but between the Water Protector Legal Collective and the network of allies there, they were able to track them. And when they knew that they were at Fargo, there's actually this lovely family that took everybody in, let everybody have showers, have a lovely meal, take care of them. And then the 5-hour drive back, there's a network. And of course, I wanted to go to Fargo and just sit in a parking lot somewhere. But, being I was really in an unfamiliar territory, temperatures getting pretty cold, not sleeping well for days because we were camping in tents and freezing weather. So, friends talked me into just staying at the camp and staying with the Water Protectors Legal Collective, that they would handle things. And sure enough, they did. I was very impressed with.
That's awesome.
With those networks. Yeah.
So what made you decide to go to Palestine? You've been there twice, right?
Only once.
Oh, once. Okay.
Once. It was last fall, actually. This time last year, I was there. I was there for just under. Oh, bless you.
Easy.
Bless you.
Easy. Thank you. Last one.
Yeah, I was there just about this time last year. I was there for just under 2 weeks. With a really great group of people. We have Palestinian solidarity activist that is also active with the Green Party. His name is Miko Peled. And I had just seen him speak April of 2017 at our Green Party state convention. And I didn't even know I was going to be going to Palestine yet. And I saw him at this convention, and he broke things down in such simple terms about the apartheid conditions there, the human rights violations. I had been aware of the situation for years. Even when I was in law school, I had some work with international law and human rights, and worked with the International Human Rights Clinic at CUNY Law, did some work with them. So I was aware of the issue, but just kind of very superficial and on the surface. And when I saw Miko Peled speak about the issue, and he's a Israeli American with dual citizenship, whose father was a general who was involved with the 1967 war. So it was interesting how he had the change. You know, he saw, and he did view some difficult actions because of the struggles, but he went towards the way of, you know, just really looking at it with an open mind and open eyes. And like I said, the way he broke things down at our convention, it just started, you know, not that I was not concerned about the plight of Palestinians, but just the way that he broke things down. And then I have a friend who was more in touch with Miko Peled as an acquaintance than I was. And about 2 months after that conference, my friend shot me an email and said, "Hey, Diane, Miko's taking a bunch of activists over to Palestine in a few months. You want to come with?" And then my friend followed up with affordable airfare to Tel Aviv. And I think I might not even told all my family, and just sort of booked my airfare and said, okay, I have to see for myself.
That's awesome.
And
What was it like when you got there? What was the energy and the scenery and what was it like?
well, you know what I thought was odd is there was actually, for me, more tension going into the Israeli airport in Tel Aviv, which is a decent distance from where our first stop was, which was East Jerusalem. Somebody with our trip was arriving about 5 hours before we were arriving, and we were all on our WhatsApp chat, the group of activists that was going, keeping track of each other, you know, finding out if anybody had any problems, because the Israeli government will harass people that are identified as being Palestinian activists, Palestinian solidarity activists. And our one friend, I was getting the play-by-play on the WhatsApp chat that first he was being interrogated as he was trying to get through customs. Then they took him to a room and, you know, further interrogated him. I know he was held for many, many, many hours. I forget how long, but I think, you know, we were arriving about 5 hours after him, and I think we were there for a few hours and still trying to track him to make sure he was okay. And they identified him as a Palestinian solidarity activist. So they actually put him on a plane and sent him back to the New York area, which is where he left from. So we're seeing this happening as we're about to go through customs, and we know that some of us might be linked together. So it was like, wow, just trying to get into Tel Aviv. I had never been to Palestine before, but this activist had been. So that's how he was tracked. But I had friends that said, oh, they may identify you as an activist. So, you know, people would warn you to purge your Facebook account, shut down your Facebook, clean up your cell phone, because they will ask, if they start interrogating you, they will ask for you to open up your cell phone and let them see all of your applications and go on a fishing expedition. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking that I was surprised. I felt a higher level of tension just in the airport in Tel Aviv than I
Yeah.
actually did when I was on the other side of the border walls and in Palestine. Of course, there's massive amounts of tension there, but yeah.
Wow. So what were the Palestinian people like? Were they open about the pain they feel, or what was the scenery like and everything like that?
Well, the reason a lot of allies and activists go is because we're usually going because we're invited by Palestinians, and through Miko Peled, he has connections with families and communities. So this was all, there was a plan. We had an itinerary that we knew of before we even arrived. And they welcome us there because there is such a, I don't need to tell you that there is a mainstream media blockout of virtually everything that concerns all of us. And of course, with an issue of Palestinian rights, it's, except for, the horrific actions that began late spring with Gaza, you only hear about it when it's getting extreme. But they are under military lockdown 24/7. Their villages can be raided, multiple times a week. They raid their villages in the middle of the night. They will raid houses in the middle of the night and randomly take certain people. They will they use something called like skunk water, I think it's called. They drive through villages with these trucks that have these like water guns on the top of them, and this skunk liquid, basically, if it gets on furniture and rugs, it completely destroys it. It's nasty, disgusting smelling. So whatever hits it has to be thrown out. They're using concussion grenades. And it's really disturbing that when you're in the villages, the people have to make the best of things. And I'm always amazed at how happy and resilient these people are. They are going about their daily lives, and this is happening on a regular occurrence. And when you're walking throughout some of the villages, I can think right now if it was Nabi Saleh, where the Tamimi family is. We were walking around the village, and there's certain areas where they take the rubber bullets and they take the concussion grenades and they make art out of it, like installation art. They'll be strung up on trees, they'll be
Wow.
put into different formations, and you can tell it's people that are just trying to live their daily lives. And I'm sure you might have heard about the Ahed Tamimi situation. I guess that was in December of last year. And we met the Tamimi family. They hosted us for a day. We met Ahed's mom, Ahed's dad, and they just seem really like a typical family. She's a teenage girl. I remember they made us a wonderful dinner, and it's just teenage girl cutting up some peppers and vegetables with her mom at the counter. At the end of the meal, we're all cleaning up the table, and Ahed is just in there, just like your typical teenage girl. So it's just heartbreaking that a few weeks after we got back to see what they were putting her through. And it was disturbing that a lot of the families and villages we saw, I'm then watching on different Facebook feeds. If you remember, in December of 2017, it was when Trump made the decision to claim, state that he was going to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. And it was as if it was just done to, just really get under the skin of the Palestinian people, putting the final nail in the coffin about Jerusalem's supposed to be an international city. I know that the Palestinians hold claim to it being their capital, so it's a real, like a nail in the coffin to being able to work towards a peaceful agreement. For us to have the nerve when the UN does not recognize that decision, international law does not recognize that decision, and we have the nerve to say that we were going to move our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. There's no reason for us to do that. So it's clearly done just to, Trump is acting like the bully that Netanyahu acts like. They really do appear to be buddies. And that's when we saw the violence seemed to step up, that it seemed like they were trying to instigate and, poke and prod at the Palestinians to get them to react. And we saw so many people that we met being grabbed and detained. There was a lovely social worker that ran so many programs for his community, his village, and the children. And, from what we saw, he was at a peaceful protest, yes, a reaction to the Jerusalem decision, but completely peaceful. And he was locked up for quite some time. Ahed Tamimi, because she has a little bit of, and she's young, and she's, a young woman, so that image is just a little bit more shocking. But there were so many people that were being grabbed and locked up that we had met with. It was really disturbing.
Wow. Some people in the comments are talking about Yemen, and saying that if the Green Party can work on something with that it would be a success. I'm not sure if you guys know, but Senator Bernie Sanders did write up some legislation. He is proposing it to the Senate this month. So be on the lookout to who the establishment Dems, like how they vote, because don't assume the Dems are all going to vote in favor, because no, we cannot assume.
Oh, yeah.
How many of them voted for the $70 billion war budget increase 2 months ago? So we got to make sure that we keep on them, that when Bernie brings that bill to the table this month, they have to vote to step in. They have to, because it does get too often ignored. So at the very least, it'll get on, hopefully at least on the TV, but get people talking about it.
And it's good to remind us to look for it so we can call our representatives and hold them to task. Because like I said, the Democrats, except for Bernie, every Democrat voted for every time a military budget is increased. There's not a military budget that our establishment neoliberal Democrats don't love. And
what's interesting? Trump was asking for less than they gave him. He wasn't asking for $70 billion. He was asking for like 62 or 64. And they were like, no, we'll sign over 70. They actually gave him more.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the entire federal budget for that particular budget that was voted on, I think it went to just under $700 billion. By the
700, you're right.
Yes,
you're right.
I think it was like 660 something. And then there's all the other ways they add on to that, the things that aren't included in the federal military budget. So some people have our military spending at actually already at $1 trillion. And that's just ridiculous. Yeah. So we have to be aware. We have to educate each other and call our representatives out. Let them know that we're watching them, because we can make them feel uncomfortable. We can, and we should.
Absolutely. And, that's something that's really, incredible about candidates like yourself. You may be running in the state of New Jersey, but because you have so much knowledge of things that go on elsewhere, it does actually help for when people are going to contact you and say, look, this isn't going on in New Jersey, but have you heard about this? And, because I do interview candidates who say, well, I don't really deal with that because it's not this state or something. We have to be aware of really everything important going on, every cause that needs, where people need help. And
Absolutely.
you have a leg up on that. So I think we'll get to your campaign now. So what actually made you decide to go as an activist, to go this extra step and, run for office? Because you went to law school, so why, although it does seem to be a natural progression, oddly enough, I do interview a lot of candidates who were lawyers. What made you decide to go this route?
Yeah, I guess I'd say it's my politics were formed by my activism, by the work that I did for over 14 years as a legal services attorney in Newark. That and it's and I think I surprised myself when I made the decision, but I just realized, the time is now. We can't wait any longer. The destruction from everything, from war and the planet and the suffering of everyday people. I just said, okay, enough. We've got to, jump out of our comfort zones sometimes. And I jumped out of my comfort zone and, I just dove in there. If, what makes me any different from my opponents are Tom Malinowski and Leonard Lance, and I am just as worthy.
Yeah. We can talk about those differences.
But when we're talking about qualified, I am just as qualified as either of the two candidates. Yes, I'm an attorney. I've worked as an attorney for over 14 years with legal services. I law clerked for about a year and a half for a Superior Court judge before that in New Jersey. And I am just as worthy as my opponents. Being an attorney, I am aware we were involved at times with certain state bill writing because of things that intersect with the legal services world and different bills that also would relate to. I do a lot of work and primarily with projects that work with victims of domestic violence. So a lot of this stuff intersects, and I believe I am more in touch with your everyday voter that lives in the 7th Congressional District. I believe that my opponents are both political insiders that have pretty much virtually their entire adult working lives been political insiders. So they're really both out of touch with your average everyday person, the struggles that we face day to day. I've talked about it before. I have massive amounts of student loan debt. I have student loan debt that I'm paying off for my daughter's tuition. She has her own student loan debt. My husband has his student loan debt. My household, not including my daughter's student loan debt in her own name, I think we're at about, I think it's over $1,400 a month. It might be $1,600, but I think right now it's $1,400 a month. And that's just my husband and myself. So that's not even my daughter's. And I know I'm not alone. So that's why I fight these battles. I know there's so many people in my situation. We're struggling to pay medical bills. We're struggling to make rent or mortgage payments. We're struggling with student loan debt. And the madness has to end. And we need real everyday people to say, I'm worthy. I'm just as worthy as, fill in the blank, name your local representative. And yeah, I think that's absolutely what we need. We need real people in there doing real work because, they're working for their big money corporate donors. They're not working for us, whether it be an establishment neoliberal Democrat or your regular everyday Republican. They're not working for us anymore.
Definitely. Yeah, as someone, you know, as a teammate of RP, you obviously understand MMT, and do you ever talk to people you're trying to have conversations with about you know, how you're going to pay for it? Do How do people respond? Like, are people open to the concept, or?
And, you know, I would probably, after this election, love to have some type of a MMT forum in the 7th Congressional District, because I am not well versed enough in MMT to teach others. So what I can talk about is, as we've heard others say, nobody flinches of how are we going to afford it when it's a $700 billion military budget. So even if people can't grasp the concepts yet, but we'll all get there, of MMT, why is it just when it's things that are helping the people that we question how we're going to pay for it, right?
Always.
You know, when we bailed out the banks, there were, especially from your establishment politicians, whether it be Democrats or Republicans, they all got in line and bailed out the banks and sold out the people, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Do you, I think I should know the answer to this, but just to clarify for everyone else, do you support a federal job guarantee?
Well, being a Green, I am an eco-socialist, and I know some people get scared of the socialist word, but I know that our younger generations
S word.
What's that? What's
Not
that?
the S word.
Russia. But eco-socialism is about protecting the worker, protecting the planet, and workplace democracy. So what could be wrong with that? So talking about a federal jobs guarantee, I support a Green New Deal, which I know some of our real progressives also support a Green New Deal. And that, you know, the favorite component of that for me is the plan to build a renewable energy infrastructure that would create jobs and fight climate change. So I think built in with that would be a jobs program. So I would certainly support a jobs program. I support free public higher education or trade school. And again, how are we going to pay for that? You know, I'm sure you've had other guests who have talked about it. I think the stats show it's about 75 billion. So even if they don't want to talk about MMT, come on, the military is spending $700 billion. That is not about national security. That is about lining the pockets of the military contractors and supporting the military industrial complex. That has nothing at all to do with national security. So we could easily move 75 billion from that column to educating. And I'd also like to work on a plan for student loan debt forgiveness, because I'm a Gen Xer, and I have taken frugality to the highest levels. I don't have cable. You know? I am a super, super duper frugal shopper. I do get my suits at Goodwill. And what that's doing, though, is we're no longer consumers because all of our money is wrapped up in debt. So it would actually benefit the economy to have a plan for student loan debt forgiveness, because I know I'm not alone. I talked to one young man in his early 20s over the weekend. His student loan payments are $1,200 a month, and he's 24 years old, and it's just an undergrad loan. And yeah, he has a good job, but he can't leave his parents' basement.
Damn basement dwellers.
Yeah, I love basement dwellers. There's nothing Nothing wrong with that. We got to work together. But I also know that our basement dwellers want independence and they want freedom from this massive amount of debt. That is creating a stagnant economy. We're all bogged down in our high housing costs and our student loan debt. And we've been knocking on hundreds of doors. It's also about medical debt. Even with the Affordable Care Act, people are still amounting, their premiums go up and up and up, their co-pays go up and up and up. And that
Girl, you don't have to tell me. You know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I'm doing better. Thanks to, everyone's been so kind and everything, but
good.
I'm glad to be back. But yeah, it's hard hearing about all these, like, I am by no means rare. Like, this is just, when you go canvassing and everything, what's the most common things you hear that people are concerned with?
It's exactly what we were just talking about. They are concerned about housing costs, whether they're renters or their taxes, which even taxes can be a local issue, but it also it trickles down from the federal government and what states get that then divvy up and what so it's all still connected. So they are concerned about affordable housing, whether they be renters or having a mortgage payment. They are they're not happy with the Affordable Care Act. It's not hard to get people. I think those are the three issues: housing, student loan debt, and the Affordable Care Act not being affordable and not being care, because it's not just about the fact that people can't afford it. It's also, I'm sure you've gone through these problems where, your list of doctors gets shorter and shorter, and your quality of care. And, I've had doctors have to fight with insurance companies for me to get the kind of tests I need for, certain procedures and health concerns. And that's just ridiculous. We've got to cut out the middleman. So my platform does support improved Medicare for all, HR 676, which I've been a supporter of a single payer system for decades. And, we could have had it when Obama was implementing the Affordable Care Act, but
but now he's on board. Now he's on board.
And now the nerve that he acts like it's brand new when there was a lobby. I know one of my doctors was actually down there lobbying Obama for a single payer system. And when I saw him shortly after, he's one of my favorite doctors, he actually said to me, he said, "Diane, we almost had it. We almost had it." And he looked devastated. And he was so, you could tell, just so invested in the work he had been doing. And he said it was the insurance lobby. They came in and they blocked it. And this doctor of mine said they had the votes. Obama knew he had the votes. I understand they were scared that it would be used and just flipped around the next election. But there's a stat out there that once countries have something to the level of a single payer healthcare, they never vote it out. So we needed to take that chance. We needed to. And, he failed us. And yeah, to have the nerve when he knew it was our Green Party. She has been a Senate candidate in the past, Dr. Margaret Flowers. She does work with Physicians for a National Healthcare Program. I think she's been on RP in the past. No, I know she has. And I believe that might have been one of the incidents that she might have even gotten arrested for.
I think it was,
on the Senate floor during the hearings. So she was yelling about single payer healthcare, about Medicare for all. So... yeah.
And what's interesting, and to everybody watching, tonight in an hour I have a second show, and it's with a California candidate, Maria Estrada, and she is running against the twat waffle named Anthony Rendon, who is the Democrat who shelved HR 676. So we're going to get into that and how she's taking him on, because he's garbage. And so when people say, oh, Democrats are for universal health, no, they're actually not. Some are, but that doesn't mean the party is, because they're not.
Yeah, I think it was in California where the Democrats might have been ordered to stop talking about improved Medicare for all. Was it California?
Yep, that was him.
Wow, ridiculous.
So this is a woman who
is she running for? Because I know California has that unique.
Yes, they're both Democrats.
So she's more progressive.
Yeah,
way more.
It's just
she is progressive. He's not. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much anyone's more progressive than him. Big money, big money. And yeah. So the fact that she's never run for anything in her life, and oh look, now she gets to take him on in the general, it's proof that, you know, if we have the people, like, we can do some shit for real.
Yeah, absolutely. Take a chance, take a risk, and support all of these real progressive candidates, independent candidates, because we don't get the big funding, we don't get the big apparatus. And I know I'll say it for all of our Greens and progressives out there, there is one in your area, I am sure. Please spend an afternoon canvassing for them. That is, in my opinion, because we can't do big money mailers, we are getting our word out by going door to door canvassing. So I know everybody watching right now, you have a progressive or a wonderful eco-socialist, green, or independent that you can get to this weekend. There's only 3 weekends left. And I'd say a lot of us, you know, we've gotten, I've been surprised. We've gotten a decent amount of money. So we've gotten literature and signs. I'm probably going to order some more signs. But I think even more than small donations, which we still love, I'll put that out there before I forget. My website is moxleyforus.com. So of course we will still love small donations. But I think we're all at the stage now where we need our little people armies, our armies of peace. So please, like, I'm not kidding you. You don't know how much just 2 or 3 hours between now and Election Day really makes a difference. So let's even try to have a movement for throughout the country. Adopt your true lefty, okay? There's going to be phone banking. There's going to be door to door. You have your favorite candidates. You know what their social media presence is. My Instagram is Moxley for Us. My Twitter is Moxley for Us. So, you know, share our stuff. Help us, you know, like I said, all of our wonderful lefties throughout the country. We need people power. So even if you can't be out in the streets, you can help us with social media. Contact a local campaign. You might be surprised that you have a skill they're looking for. And that's how we're going to win. And if not this time for me, there's next time. I've already decided this is a 2-election campaign. Yes. And I will continue to raise money after the election. I've learned some wonderful skills, and we're polishing our organizing. So we will lay out a groundwork for 2 years from now, and we will really kick butt in 2 years.
Awesome. Mark, can you please put Diane's website in the comments? And for someone, you know, for the people, I mean, I doubt we have them because our viewers are freaking awesome and they're actually progressive and open-minded and just total badasses. But for people who are concerned about voting a third party, what message do you give to them as for, you know, there's just an overabundance of vote blue no matter who and all that stuff. What do you tell people to, you know, just kind of calm their concerns and tell them that it's okay to vote third party, vote person, not party. What's your advice?
Yeah, and I wouldn't be running third party if I didn't think it was an important part of where we need to go. And what I say is nobody owns your vote. I'm trying to motivate. We've got a lot of people registered to vote. I am trying to motivate unaffiliated voters, people who have tuned out. But also, if you're a Democrat and you're a progressive Democrat, and we know that throughout the country, there was an intentional effort to plunk down neoliberals throughout the country to take out progressives. Like, in Congressional District 7, we had Peter Jacob, who was a progressive, who ran
Bernie
2 years
delegate.
ago. He was a Bernie delegate. He was endorsed by Bernie, probably one of the first Our Revolution endorsements. He had Josh Fox come out and fundraise for him. And we know that the establishment Democrats plunked in Tom Malinowski from out of state. I don't think he really even lived in New Jersey for much of his adult life at all. He still has a house in DC. He's renting a house in the 7th Congressional District. So they did that to take Peter Jacob out. So if you're going to support a neoliberal Democrat, you are supporting the system that is trying to destroy the progressive movement. You're supporting a system that thumbs their nose at real democracy, which is people taking a brave stand and running for office. This is my First Amendment right. And, to run for office, this is my, I look at it as this is my speech. I'm getting my message out. And I have just as much of a right to run for this office as Tom Malinowski and as Leonard Lance. And I would say the person who moved into the district from out of state and sabotaged the local progressive who has lived in this district most of his life, that's the spoiler. We're not spoilers. We're doing the work. We're doing this because it's a calling that, I know Peter Jacob, he comes from a social work background. I think he was working for a homeless coalition, and, the neoliberal who took him out was a, State Department war hawk, completely out of touch with your regular working person in New Jersey. So, no, we're not spoilers. I'm not going away. Third parties aren't going away. I think they're going to grow. And I would also say, to jump off of that issue, in New Jersey, we're going to do a lot of work, and I know other states are doing similar work on ranked choice voting, which will remove the spoiler effect. Because you'll be able to, I joked I was at a forum the other night and I was trying to use the 2016 election. So I said, so if I was voting in 2016, I could vote for, you had 4 candidates. You had Jill, Hillary, Trump, and Gary Johnson. We had others, but those were the 4 that were getting media attention. So I said, you could vote for Jill. I would vote for Jill first. And then I laughed and I said, oh, wait, I wouldn't vote for Hillary second. So let's pick another person, a fictitious person who would vote for Hillary second.
Hey, I wrote in Bernie, so I'll write him in 4 times.
No, you could have written in, think about it this way. You could have written in Bernie first, Jill second, and then you wouldn't have voted for Hillary.
I'd rather die.
Yeah. Well, you might have had some people in Michigan and Wisconsin that were scared, but they could have voted for Bernie number 1, Jill number 2, and Hillary number 3. So what that would have done was it would have given the ability to allow a base to build for progressive candidates to get the right percentages they need to be viable candidates. And then when those candidates didn't get to that threshold, they go down each tier, and that's how you remove the spoiler effect. So in New Jersey, we're going to be doing educational forums on ranked choice voting, because we all need to really get this stuff down. And we're going to do work on getting money out of politics. And this is how you're going to have real progressive candidates, real candidates coming from the left and doing work for the people. You're not going to get them from the establishment, corporate controlled Democrat and Republicans.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Diane. You've been on my list forever. And but you're like, we'll do it in the general because, you know, since you're green, we're going to the general. So I'm like, finally, let's do this. And definitely check out the comments afterwards because you're definitely getting some love for sure.
See, I can't see the comments. Sorry, technology.
Yeah. And it looks like Madeline Hoffman is in the comments.
Yes, she is our wonderful U.S. Senate Green candidate. She is so brave. She is running against our incumbent, Bob Menendez. I don't know if you're aware of him, but he is so neoliberal. He had to have his steak dinner, $5,400 steak dinner fundraiser last night with Hillary Clinton. So you can just tell where his.
Oh my God, I was going to say it sounds like Hillary, but she was there.
She was there. They're like this. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
He should have been primaried by a progressive, but I think our Democratic machine in New Jersey made sure that nobody ran against him. You know, he was indicted. He was not acquitted. He was admonished by the Senate Ethics Committee. So, yes, he has ethics problems. Nobody.
Oh, so that's why he gets along with her. That makes sense.
What's that?
That's why he gets along with her.
Yes. Yeah,
totally makes sense.
2 peas in a pod. Yeah, we had a fun protest last night in Jersey City. My voice is a little sore because I was trying to lead chants without a bullhorn. So big shout out to Madeline. Yeah, she's a very brave woman taking on that machine.
Good for you, Madeline. That's rad.
Yeah. Yes, and HoffmanForUs.com for Madeline.
Yes, she posted it.
And love, yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Diane. You know, we wish you the best of luck. We adore you. You are a freaking fighter, and you kick ass. So we support you all the way.
Thank you so much. You kick ass too. Keep doing what you're doing. Getting the word out, right? Thank you.
What's that?
Yeah, keep doing what you're doing. Getting the word out.
I try my damnedest.
Got to fight the machine. You're doing your part. We're doing
ours. Yeah. So thank you guys for watching. In an hour, I have Maria Estrada. I work full time and then do 5 shows a week because you know what? It's general time.
Wow.
I don't either.
Wow. Pace yourself. We need you.
So thank you guys. Try to join me again in an hour for California candidate Maria Estrada. Once more, thank you, Diane. Much love.
Take care. Bye.